Hi, I'm Dr. Caroline Leaf, and welcome to my podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. In today's podcast, I am going to talk about insurance policies that you can build into your brain. In other words, thought insurance policies. So this is a surefire process to build resilience needed in hard times. Okay, so before I begin though, I just want to remind you about my annual conference that is running this year on the 2nd through the 4th of December in Dallas, Texas. It's live in person. I can meet you. I'm going to be talking about how to build mental resilience and how to improve our mental health through these difficult times that we've been through the pandemic and through any difficult time. It's going to be amazing, very hands-on, very practical. I have amazing guests, and I hope to see you there. The link is in the show notes. Just go to drleaf.com, drleafconference.com, and go and register for the conference. And also just one more reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes and not medical advice. So if you need medical advice, please contact the appropriate medical professional. And now on to today's podcast. Okay, so building insurance policies into your brain with thoughts. What an amazing idea. Listen, guys, when we hit hard times, when something happens, when something throws us, when you have that argument, when that trauma hits you, that terrible phone call that something's happened, when something happens in your business, when you get that email, when you have that argument or that fight, when you're in the middle of a business meeting, we can get such that experience creates such a shock to our brain waves that in our mind and then in our brain waves that it can put us into this milkshake state, literally, where we have neurochemical and brainwave chaos and genetic chaos, and that causes changes in our blood flow. It causes changes in our hormone system, our DNA, everything, and it's fast, it's quick, it's violent, it's almost vicious, and it's in that state that we often will do things that we would never dream of doing. Or we'll say things that we'll never dream of saying. Or when we look back in the past, we'll say, how could I have done that? How could I have said that? Why did I do that? I don't know if that's happened to you, but it's happened to me. It's also, these situations can happen where people can describe a scenario to you and you'd say, oh, I'd never do that. And then you catch yourself in that and you do it. You do what you actually thought you would never do. You see, in a very heightened emotional state, emotions are very, 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 very powerful memories that are part of thoughts. Thoughts are built when we think and feel and choose. And as you think and feel and choose, you are making memories that group together to form thought trees. I spoke about this in detail in last week's podcast. So if you haven't listened to last week's podcast, I really recommend that you go and listen to that. Either pause now and go listen to that first, or after this, listen to that and listen to this again, because I explained the difference between thoughts and memories in detail in last week's podcast. Now, today I'm applying that concept into building healthy thought insurance thoughts into your brain. Okay, so as you think, feel, and choose, you are making memories, data memories with emotions, and the emotions are like glue memories inside these, holding these branches together. So you're growing thought trees. So the memories are all the branches and they make the thought. So when we talk about thought building, we are growing all these memories, growing them together and building this one big thought. So as you're experiencing something that's highly charged, a highly emotional experience, which we're all going to have, it's all the traumas of life, adverse circumstances. And that's a traumatic thing. So it's toxic. That's why I show you the toxic wiry tree. So it's not a nice, healthy one. The root source is a highly charged, highly toxic emotional situation. So the memories that are building inside here are the glue holding them together are very highly charged. And that then leads to a distorted interpretation. And then we build the interpretation memories, how we view that and how we apply that in our life in terms of the branch memories versus the root memories. That's the source, that's our interpretation. And collectively, this is how we show up. Okay, so now as this is happening and this is building, we can then start reacting in the incorrect way or in a really bad way, or doing things that we, like I said, that we would never dream we would do, or say things that we don't mean, and it can just create all kinds of problems. So how do I manage this situation? So how do I kind of have insurance policies? What we want are lots of very strong, and I should have actually a much bigger plant here. I'm going to grab one. Give me a second. I'm going to grab a bigger one. I'm back. Okay, watch this. Look at my analogies here. I want a nice, strong insurance policy that when I'm in that toxic state, so look at the toxic tree, that this jumps up and helps me to overcome and override that, because this is the natural green and healthy thoughts of align with the natural psychoneurobiology of the brain and the body. In other words, the mind-brain-body connection. We're wired for love. We're wired for optimism. And this is kind of what it looks like. So if I can have certain very strong, healthy green trees built as insurance in advance and have them practice using them, and that they're very, very strong and big and have a lot of energy, so they move very easily into my conscious mind to the point where they're just kind of there a lot, then I can use this to overcome that. I can use this to counter the impact of that toxic moment, to keep me in a state of clarity, peace, wisdom, and thinking straight, and then preventing these after effects and preventing and being very kind of proactive in our mental health. So let me give you a nice practical example, and then I'm going to talk about what this looks like in the brain and what it does in the brain. So let's say we hear so much about gratitude and people having a gratitude practice, and like waking up in the morning and immediately saying what you're thankful for, and going to bed at night and saying 3 things that you're thankful for, and I talk about it even in my neurocycle app, in my book, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. I talk about these. And by the way, if you haven't yet got this book, get it. This is filled with this information. The stuff I'm teaching you now, you're going to find the foundational stuff of this in there. And my app called Neurocycle, that is like me giving you therapy and helping you to do all this stuff. And I put all these guides and things, lots of guides into the app to help you. Okay, so gratitude is one of those lattices. You want a gratitude lattice. There really is reason why people do it. It does a ton of fantastic stuff in the brain. So I'm going to give you 2 ways that you can build. I'm going to give you 2 insurance policy thoughts that you can build. One is gratitude, and the other one is possibilities. You want to have a gratitude, thankful insurance policy thought pattern, and all these little branches are the memories of all the things you're grateful for, and it can keep growing. I mean, every day there's more you can add, so it can get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and stronger and stronger and stronger. Also, you want to have a possibilities thought network, which is I'm going to explain in a moment. So first of all, when you build these insurance policies into your brain, these insurance policy thoughts, think of what an insurance policy is. You pay every month, and it's maybe years before you use it. And then suddenly you have, like what we've just had recently, our water heater broke, as well as our AC. And we had this massive leak through our house and holes all over the place. And now we've got massive repairs going on. And we literally have had to move out of our house in order for the repairs to take place. Now, we had been paying insurance. So this is very, very expensive. So a large portion of that is insurance will help towards that. So we had the insurance in preparation. This is the same concept. You pay life policies, you pay life insurance. So when you die, you can leave something for your spouse or your kids, whatever. So every month, Mac and I pay a life policy so that when we die, we have insurance, money for our kids. And that's this principle operating. When you need it, you draw on it. Now, you might find yourself drawing on this daily, and the more you use it, the more it's going to be effective for you. So let's have a look at some of the brain effects. So just in general, when you have these thoughts, as you draw on them, these nice, these green things that I'm talking about, these insurance policy thoughts, and we're going to talk specifically about gratitude and possibilities. These are some of the things. They are basically like an insurance policy that when things get really tough, you can draw on them. And they send this warm feeling of well-being that washes over you when you recall the fun and the excitement and the joy and the things that you're thankful for. Maybe it's travel memories. Maybe it's a great meal with your kids, a wonderful walk with your spouse, a beautiful new adventure, a home, beautiful new thing in your home, whatever. There's a million things we could be grateful for. And so maybe just being able to have a great workout, being able to work out, the fact that you have, that you can go and work out, that you can eat that beautiful meal, whatever it is. Okay, so there's that warm feeling of well-being is a real neurophysiological response that's changing brain waves, it's changing neurochemistry, it's changing your endocrine system, it's changing your DNA, it's changing your telomeres, and you make 1 million plus new cells every second. So every time you recall these insurance policy thoughts, you are influencing the health of those telomeres, influencing the health of your cells, influencing the health of your body. So we want to draw on those. And there's many different ones. But today, as I said, I'm going to talk about gratitude and possibilities. Okay, so the activity of building them, I'm just going to give you the benefits first. The activity of building these, actually building them and then recalling them and using them and adding more stuff on is intellectual stimulation. And so the activity of recalling and building more memories onto these thoughts is intellectual stimulation. And it brings, as you pull them back up, it brings a whoosh of memories back that creates a beautiful flood of well-being, as I've just described, of which is chemicals and energy flow through your brain and your body that basically helps to reactivate your imagination. So it improves your intellect and your creativity. So it's preparing your brain to be more creative, more intelligent. It's helping your mind to work through a better primed brain, because your mind shows up in your brain. And when your brain's primed better, your mind shows up better. And your mind can work better through a more primed brain. And basically, it prompts the desire to share and connect with others. So, and that's really healthy because we're designed for deep, meaningful connection, which also improves our whole mental well-being. We're not designed for isolation. These are all activities that the mind, brain, and body love. Okay, in fact, this process overall boosts your psychoneurobiology. And then it also helps reduce toxic, unmanaged stress. So when these are operating, you literally rely on those in a resilient fashion to then deal with toxic stress. It helps you decrease negative feelings, social biases, improve feelings of confidence and optimism. And then more specifically, focusing on these good memories can actually increase the positive emotions. So when I pull them up, I can increase the positive emotions inside these networks. And these are all positive emotions, a multitude of beautiful emotions. And emotions are like glue. And when I activate those, they send these whooshes from the non-conscious to the conscious mind and increase your ability to see things more clearly in a more peaceful way, so you make better decisions and more intelligent decisions. Okay, so you pay attention differently. And so it's kind of like a foundation from which to now function and do whatever it is that you're doing. Like I love to do this just before I go into a very creative act, because then I'm generally much more creative and much more focused, and my attention is different, and I'm seeing things that I wouldn't see, and I'm more intuitive because I've made my brain work better. So my mind is now working through a really well-primed brain. So let me tell you some brain stuff. Okay, so on a brain level, it pumps a healthy, balanced brain wave across the two sides of the brain. I love all my props. So now here's a brain. So we're going to get lovely, balanced activity across the two sides of the brain. The brain's all about balance, coherence. Okay, the amygdala, which is like a library, and libraries hold emotional perceptions in like books. So think of a library that holds books with stories. Your amygdala holds the stories, the perceptual stories of every thought that you build. You have like this perceptual story inside your amygdala, which is very emotionally laden. It's connected to the actual, so it's like an extra thing. There's the memory in the outer part of your brain, and then you have a perceptual book about it, with more information about how it's impacting your perception and your view and your emotions inside the amygdala. And those can be negative or positive. It's wired for positive, healthy ones, for loved ones. But when we have a toxic experience, they're toxic ones, and that causes damage to the amygdala. So we want to get rid of those. So these activate the good ones. So it activates the amygdala to work in a really nice way, and in healthy way, and then that impacts other structures in the brain, because it's always this downflow. Nothing works in isolation. So it activates a healthy response in the amygdala. It activates the frontal cortex, and the frontal cortex, when you're conscious, you want lots of blood flow, oxygen, balance, and that's very important in executive functioning, cognitive functioning, decision making, creativity, intelligence, focus, attention, all those things that we need to function well, that improves. Then certain components of our mirror neuron system, which reflects, are activated. And in this part, the inferior frontal lobe and the temporal lobe over here, we get a big activation of our mirror neurons. And that then helps to increase bonding and connection, which in turn then increases the intelligence of the brain. So there's all these like multiple effects. And then another thing, it activates the systems. We've got systems through our brain, certain areas of our brain that become very activated, and that then lead to a good flow of different types of good chemicals. A good flow of chemicals like dopamine, anandamide, serotonin. And this is called the reward pathway. That gets activated. This list that I'm listing is priming your brain for really good thinking, real good creativity, real good mind management, real good management of a crazy situation. And then also, and as I mentioned, serotonin, dopamine, and anandamide, which is known as the bliss hormone, will then also be released, which also gives us that feeling of excitement, satisfaction, well-being. So all of this is now happening, and that's just a few things. There's a lot more. So to make this happen, let's now talk about the how-to and give you some actual tips. We want to create a couple of insurance policies. So the first one, as I mentioned, is the gratitude thought insurance policy. So we want to do a gratitude one. Maybe it only starts off small. And then, or let's say it only starts off this small. That's okay, because over time you can build it into that. And then over time you can build it into that. And then over time you can add this. And then it just, it just keeps growing. And the more you use it over 63 days, you turn it into a established automated habit, a sustainable pattern. You're not going to use that unless you practice using it. So you build and you practice using it and you keep growing it. So the main building happens over the first 3 weeks, and then the extra growth that makes it stronger and stronger root system and more powerful with more impact happens over the next 42 days. So you need to practice what I'm telling you for at least 63 days, and then you don't stop after that. You just keep on. But the impact you're going to really feel after about 63 days. So the gratitude one, we all know gratitude is being thankful. So you go through the 5 steps. The neurocycle is 5 established steps that form a system for how you organize your thoughts to drive the neuroplasticity in your brain. So it's based on how we build thoughts. It's in detail in the book, in the second half of the book. It's based on 38 years of my clinical experience and research. It's a scientific system into which you can put techniques. Not a technique, it's not a quick fix. It is a system for how you get your wise mind talking to your messy mind to direct the changes that you want in your brain. And in this case, we're trying to build this gratitude insurance policy. So the 5 steps are to gather awareness, to reflect, to write, to recheck, and an active reach. So how do we do this? You're going to do this every day for 63 days, okay? So the first thing is you're going to gather awareness of how many things you are grateful for. Very simple. So just gather awareness and start in your mind getting that list. Now, once you've got maybe 5 or 10 things, now reflect on them. So each day you can add more. So 5 or 10, just spend a couple of seconds. Don't get 5 or 10. Then reflect on, why? Get some detail, get some data, get some emotions added. So think of and as you're thinking of the data and the emotional responses, look at your physical responses. So when I think of this, I feel so excited and I find my body feels good. I feel like so energized. That's the sort of thing you do in the reflect step. Then you write that down, okay? And write that in a Metacog. And a Metacog is a way of organizing information on the page that really makes the brain work so well. I teach you how to do it in here. In the Neurocycle app, I teach you as well, and there's a video, okay? And then you're going to recheck what you've written. And when you recheck it, you're going to add more insight. What more can you add? How can you package this more? What more depth can you get? And then the active reach, step 5, is that you're going to practice using this today. So you take, just honestly, as you wake up in the morning, you can do this over 2 minutes. And then your active reach is, okay, I'm going to practice. Of these 5 or 10, I'm going to practice these 5 or 10, or maybe it's only 3 or 2 or 1, whatever. Whatever is easy. Maybe 3 is an easy number for you. You find your number somewhere between 3 and 10, and you're going to practice those today. Then tomorrow you come back and you add another 3. And the next day, maybe another 1. And so you go through for 63 days. You're writing it down so you can just keep practicing this. So you're growing this thing. You're growing this insurance thought. Let's talk about the possibilities one. Let's talk possibilities thought. So that's the gratitude one where you're just focusing on the gratitude one. What is the possibilities mindset? The easiest, or the possibilities insurance thought. The easiest way to think about this is, I love to use Thomas Edison's example. A possibilities insurance thought is when Thomas Edison discovered the light bulb, he tried, it was the 1001 try or something. It was just over 1,000 tries. And when he was being interviewed about this, one of the reporters said, how do you feel about your 1,000 failures? And his immediate response was phenomenal. It shows the possibilities mindset. He said, they're not failures. I now know 1,000 things that don't work. That's a possibilities mindset. A possibilities mindset is not looking at failure as anything but what can you learn, what shouldn't happen, what doesn't work, and shifting. So instead of getting stuck in, oh, I have failed, which is breaks your identity, it is shifting over to the what have I learned? What are the different possibilities? And if you face your day with a possibilities mindset, you are always then open to, okay, this is my plan, but if it doesn't quite work out, what are the other possibilities? What are the other things I could do? So you keep yourself open to being flexible and changing so that you don't get stuck and thrown, oh gosh, my flight's delayed, now what? And I'm stuck and I'm getting mad and upset and just getting toxic. You can draw on the possibilities mindset and you can say, okay, well, let me see this as an adventure. How can I use this time effectively? And then you reconceptualize that. So let's have a look at the little steps. So the possibilities thought insurance policy, and as I said, maybe the first day it's like this big. So day one is like this. You gather awareness of even it could be just starting today. It could be something like gather awareness of things that you failed, to find one thing that you feel that you failed. And instead of saying, or you haven't done, take one thing, okay, that you feel maybe yesterday that you didn't do or that you failed at, okay? And now reconceptualize this. Say it like this. I didn't fail. I learned what not to do. I learned what didn't work. And that's wonderful to know because now I've learned something new. Okay. So you start by gathering awareness of what you failed to do yesterday or last week, just in the recent couple of days that you didn't do or you failed, you feel you failed at. And rephrase it. Gather that and then rephrase it. Okay. And say, and I read it again, I haven't failed. I have learned what didn't work or what not to do, which is wonderful to know. And now you reflect on that. What is the detail? Ask, answer, discuss. Reflect on that. What did you learn? Build that. Okay, and then focus on the emotions you're feeling as you've shifted, as you've reconceptualized, you're reconstructing. Focus on your emotions, focus on your body, focus on this, on your how your attitude's changing. That's your perspective, and then write that down in the Metacog. Then go back in and do the recheck where you see how can I flesh this out a little bit more, and then your active reach is to actually apply that lesson or that what you didn't do into today. Now, it may not be the exact same thing, but the concept of observing where you feel you catch yourself, where you think, oh my gosh, I wanted to do this and this is going wrong. Practice using a possibilities mindset. Catch yourself seeing the failure as bad and shifting that over, what have I learned? Do that for 63 days. And then within a few weeks, it's going to be like this, and then it's going to be like this, and then it's going to eventually be like this, and it's going to keep on growing. So when you're in those tough emotional situations and someone argues with you and puts you on the spot and makes you mad, or you get on the phone and you get that thing that just completely throws you, or you're in a situation where you are going to respond in that way that you don't want to respond, or you said you would never respond and you start responding, guess what you can draw on? You have built this lattice, you've practiced using it. These are going to jump. I have to pick up these things again. All my props, all these trees. For those that are listening, I'm holding up lots of trees here, green trees. These are going to pop up because they've had so much attention. So they give you veto power. They give you veto power over the toxic reaction and keep you in a calm enough state that you can then prepare your brain and do a proper neurocycle, a full neurocycle to now manage that situation. And if it's a pattern, you can do the neurocycle over 63 days, which I help you in the book and the neurocycle app. So you want these to have lots of energy. They've got to come from the non-conscious mind through the subconscious into the conscious. If they're only tiny, they won't get through. But if they're big, they will get through. So by applying these 5 steps and practicing this over 63 days, you are going to change your life. I cannot wait to get your feedback. Send me your feedback. I'm excited about this because I know this works. I do this in my life. I've got huge ones. And when I start falling into that complaining or whining or moaning or reacting wrong or going mad, boy, these things come up first before I do anything like breathing or counting or havening or any kind of brain prep. I pull on these. I get myself into that resilient state. Then I prepare my brain. Then I do my neurocycle. Well, I hope this has helped you. I can't wait for your feedback. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining me today.